laser discs and some CDs. We got two little dogs licking their balls on the screen. And now it's time for the show.
Alright, well I wanted to do a little preference before this video, just because there's some things I feel like I need to say before watching this interesting video on a very interesting RGB monitor. First off is I just want to make it clear this video is pretty old. I've been sitting on it for quite a while, probably like 4 years since I recorded this. So I just want to forewarn you guys, this video is really rough, like rougher than usual for this channel. My channel's really not known for really polished videos. But this one is really kind of not good, even more so. That's a big part of the reason why I just have been sitting on it and I just haven't released it. I just thought it just wasn't really good enough to upload to YouTube. But my intention was always to come back to this monitor and do like a better, proper video on it. But that's probably not going to happen anytime soon just because my space restrictions in the apartment and the thing's just so heavy. But yeah, just keep in mind, this video is from like 4 years ago. The camera I use for my videos right now is like the bottom tier of what you need for YouTube to make okay looking videos. But before that, it's the camera I used to do this video is even way worse. It's a HD, but it's like, it was a terrible camera. I got it for like $50 off like Craigslist or something. I also edited this video, like I edited all my older videos in Microsoft Movie Maker. So just keep in mind this video is rough, but I decided, there's not much information out there on this particular monitor. It's a pretty rare like RGB monitor. I guess it's a PVM. It might just be a display monitor. I'm not sure, but I figured like a crappy video is better than no video out there. So I'm just gonna release this video as kind of like a filler video. So just keep in mind it's a really rough older video. The second thing, I just wanted to give some background on this monitor. I picked it up with a lot of other monitors that I haven't done videos on yet. The AV department at like a local college was just selling off all their old stuff. And I got some pretty cool RGB monitors for pretty cheap. Unfortunately, they all kind of have some minor and some major issues with them. I just don't have the space or time. They've just been pretty much sitting in my storage unit for the last 4 years. So this was the only monitor I ended up bringing to the apartment and doing like a quick video on it that day. And then I took it back to the storage unit. I always intended to bring it back out and work on it and tweak it, but I never did. But yeah, so that's the backstory on this video. Enjoy this video on kind of a unique RGB monitor. And again, just keep in mind this video is pretty rough. All right, enjoy.
Hello guys, I was going to throw this in with my last video where I covered a few PVMs I recently picked up. Well, PVMs is a generic term for professional video monitors. It's really only what Sony calls them, so we'll just call them, professional monitors, broadcast monitors, whatever. But this one was a little bit weird, so I decided it needed its own video. Actually, I picked up one that's even weirder than this, but it's so big and heavy that it's pretty much in exile in my storage unit, because I can't even fit it in my car. The guy was nice enough to drive it to the storage unit for me, and I have nowhere to put it. I don't even have anywhere to put this. This will probably go to the storage unit after this video, at least till maybe I hopefully one day get a bigger place, or maybe my FV310 craps out and I replace it or something. I don't know. But it is cool to have, even though this unit does have some issues, unfortunately. But if anything, since I have it and I have it here right now, we should do a video on it, because I don't think anyone else has covered this monitor, and information on it is fairly scarce. Now, as you can tell, it is sinking into the bed because it is ridiculously heavy. Not too heavy that I can't move it around with significant effort. I'm not a strong guy, but it is pretty heavy. So what is this thing? Okay, this is the NEC PG-2740 Multisync. So this is from NEC. It is a 27-inch monitor. It also goes by down here, NEC Multisync 4PG. There's a power button right here. There's an RF. It does have a remote, which I do not have, unfortunately, which I really need. And then right down here, you might not notice that these are indicator lights for what what you've got going on the back, what's being displayed. When I move this over here, I notice this thing holds a lot of static electricity. It's just grabbing hair that's in the air from the dogs and the cat, and it even shocked me twice, lightly. It's not like electrical. It's static. It's a lot of static electricity on this thing. This thing is weird. This is more of a computer monitor actually than like a a PVM-ish type thing, and I'll show you why when I turn it around. It's weird. It's a weird like computer monitor, PVM-ish television type thing. It is interesting. It is heavy, and it's from NEC. I'm going to turn it around and show you the back of this thing. Sorry, this is a really impromptu video, just like the last one I did. I picked all these things up today, and I just wanted to do a video on them before I tinker with them a little bit more. So I'm going to turn it around with some effort and take a look at the connections on the back. Hey, I did everything you're going to see, everything you have seen and everything you're going to see after this clip. I actually recorded yesterday when I just got this thing home, and I was real excited to do a video on it and test it out and stuff. So I wanted to insert this little clip. It's the next day, and I did a little bit of research and stuff, and I just have some extra stuff I want to throw in here about this monitor before we move on with the other stuff that I shot yesterday. First of all, I do say that there's not a lot of information on this monitor on the internet, and I was right and I was wrong. There isn't a lot of information on this specific model, but there is a few videos on YouTube and a decent amount of information on the NEC Multisync XM39, I believe. And that's a very sought after RGB monitor. A lot of people say it's the best monitor you can get for retro gaming. Basically, this is the same monitor I've pretty much found out, but scaled down a little bit this is a 27-inch monitor. I think that one's a 29-inch. But actually viewable area might actually be almost the same amount. I'm not 100% sure, but this is basically just that monitor light, which actually I prefer because it's a little bit easier to move around and stuff. But it's a pretty sought after monitor, but there is some information. Well, there's a decent amount of information on that, and this monitor is basically the same thing. So I was kind of right and I was kind of wrong about that. I do want to clarify, because I'm not sure in the next part of the video when I'm testing stuff and looking at stuff, but this thing does do both VGA and it also does 15 kilohertz RGB. So it does do both, and it does. I haven't tested it yet, but from what I'm reading and everything, yeah, it should do 480p. So that's why it's kind of so sought after, because you can do all your retro games in RGB, and then you could do, say, Dreamcast in 480p through the VGA port. So it's very versatile, very nice monitor. Alright, so here's the back of this beast. At least we had the benefit here of the front that's very heavy, is pushing down, so at least we get a better view of the back. It's not going to be digging into the bed where I have to constantly lift it up. Hell of a lot of inputs back here. And the interesting thing is, after this, I'm going to show you some footage I took of it doing different things, playing different systems and stuff. And the interesting thing is, because it was in the other room, I did that before I did this part, and now I'm noticing some things on the back that may fix some issues, specifically one issue that you'll see after this, where there's a very blue U to everything on the screen, but I just noticed there's pots over here that say gain, and there's RGB, and I think these might be for adjusting that. I'm not 100% sure. I have a lot of these things, but I'm not like an expert on the technical side of it. But I wonder if I can turn down the blue intensity and fix that problem. That would be sweet, because I thought I needed the remote, which I don't have. Because one thing about this thing, there is not a lot of like buttons on it. There's no menu button that I have found. A lot of things are switches and whatnot. This one weird and nice thing is this thing right here. This is a little holder. Here's my phone. That's for your remote. I wish I had the remote to this. The guy looked for it. He thought he had it, but he couldn't find it. But that would have been sweet. But I like, it's cracked right here, but that's okay. I like how there's a little remote holder. That is so convenient. I wish all TVs had a little remote holder on them. That is really cool. So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna start here, and we're gonna go down, and then over here, and go down, and I'm just gonna show you what's on the back of this thing, because this monitor is not very well documented online at all. I found someone on the Neo Geo forums that took like a picture of the front and back. Some pictures of it in action look much better than this guy. All right, so I know it's a little bit dark here, but first we have dip switches, dip switch 1 and dip switch 2. Now we'll see on the other side it says what all these dip switches do, but that's interesting and weird. Now here these are like really the only control buttons we have here. Video 1 and 2. So this sets, like if you have, there's composite and S video is video 1, and then we have a second line for video 2. So you can pick that, and then there's 2 RGB. We have RGB 1 and 2 as well. And then these 2 are just volume buttons, volume up and down. Another weird thing about this thing is I believe there's a fan in this chassis, because when you turn it on, you can hear a fan spinning up, which is another interesting feature. Okay, so directly below that, we have RGB1, and we have an in and out. And you will notice these are VGA style connectors. That one's missing the little thing. But yes, this is why I said it's kind of like a computer monitor. This thing takes, I don't remember what the VGA is. I think it's 32 kilohertz. But this takes a VGA signal. I believe it does XGA, I think. I don't know. VGA is weird like that. There's SVGA, and then there's all kind of weird things. I'm not 100% sure. I believe it's at the highest resolution it can take is, I don't know, but it's something by 7 something, at 1024 by 768 maybe. Officially in the documentation is the highest resolution this thing can take, at least through the VGA port. There's a little switch here for 75, I think that symbol is for amp or omph or something. It's like OMP. I'm not an electrician, I don't know. And then it's high, and I think that is to set if you have something coming out, you want it set to one or the other, or else it will affect the picture. Below that we have, I have no idea what these mean. Clamp, CTL, and then we have a little thing that says VARI and fix. That might be to fix. That might be something to play with, like the orientation of the screen. And then here we have another little pot that says, hey guy, sub B level. Also have no idea what that means. And then here we have audios for RGB. RCA, stereo audio inputs for your RGB. So that's interesting. So you can have the VGA RGB going in, and then your audio too. Obviously, if you have if you're using a computer and you have a sound card, you can just get an adapter to the little 1/4 jack. So that's pretty cool. Let's move down a little bit. Anyways, let's move down a little bit. I'm taking my time with this a little bit because there is so little information on this monitor out there. So I want to make sure I get some of this decently. Okay, so here we have RGB2, and now this is more of bin connectors. But the thing is, I don't know if this thing can take 15 kilohertz RGB. I don't know. So that's something I'd like to find out. We have here, just like a PVM or most PVMs that take RGB, we have RGB. Then we have our sync, which is separated into 2. Now usually, like on a lot of the PVMs I have that use BNC for RGB, you'll have it will just be 1 and it will say sync. Now I've seen this before for computers. It's basically the BNC version of VGA. So instead of your sync in one connector, it's actually separated into two. But this one says H/CS, and then this is V. So I'm guessing the V, these are vertical sync, and this is horizontal sync. SC is maybe sync on composite. So I don't know. I'd be very curious if this does 15 kilohertz RGB. I suspect it does, and I suspect when you're doing 15 kilohertz RGB, you use this one as your sync. If whatever you're using, whatever console, I believe probably needs to support sync on composite. I'll have to do more research on that, but that would be pretty cool. All right, so moving down, we just have literature basically. We have there's for power is standard. We have your NEC. We have the model number. This was also from Collins College, and this we have the manufacture date of December 1994. So this is old. This maybe the oldest video, like professional-ish video monitor I have. 94 is pretty back there. Not the oldest monitor I have, not by far, but this type, yeah, it's pretty old. Model number, serial number, and then we have it again. Model number, serial number, description, 27-inch color monitor. All right, so let's move along to the other side. Let's start up here. This side isn't as exciting. We have our video 1, and so we have a BNC in, and then we have an S video in and out. You want to use, gee, I had one a minute ago and it disappeared. That's not good. You want to use those little BNC to composite or BNC to RCA converters. You just click on there, and then you can use regular RCA cables. Again, we have those, I guess these are resistors. Again, I believe these are for if you have it in and then you have it going out, you want to switch it to one or the other. And you have your audio. Mono in and then out, and then if you wanted stereo, here's your red. And then down a little bit, we have the same thing, that's just video 2. All right, so moving down a little bit more. Okay, this probably isn't the sharpest image here, but we have, this is video select. Now, interestingly, this does not auto select what type of video signal you're sending it. Video signal as in like what territory, what type, as in NTSC or PAL. Now, I don't believe this monitor supports CCAM. I don't know how you pronounce it, C-SCAM or CCAM. It's SECAM. I think they only use it, I think they used it in Russia. They probably still do, in Eastern Europe. I'm not 100% sure, but there is a switch for NTSC, which would be us in the United States. Japan, I believe this is slightly different, but it doesn't matter. NTSC, it works, it's interchangeable. Which maybe what this thing is here. Then we have NTSC and MNTSC. I have no idea what MNTSC is. And then we have PAL. So yeah, this will support if you have European computers, like older European computers, European consoles and stuff. This will support the PAL signal. These aren't as interesting as they look. These are just for external controllers and remotes. And then down a little bit more, we have you have speakers. You can hook up external speakers through speaker wire. And here's a little switch for speaker select for internal built-in speakers, or if you have external speakers hooked up via these through speaker wire, you can switch to those, which is cool. And then finally, we just have this little sheet thing that tells us what the dip switch settings are for. A lot of it's sort of technical, and I don't really understand it. Sorry, it's a little bit. But yeah, that's what the dip switches do. Power mode select, and then different modes, sync control. I don't really see anything. stuff that controls sync, terminator, blah blah blah. Function of external control is the one below this. So yeah, that's about it. So that's the back of this thing. Interesting monitor. I wish mine was working better, but now that I have noticed these, I might at least be able to get rid of, in my opinion, the worst issue this monitor is having, which is a very strong blue hue over the image. But it is having like some sharpness issues. It's just the image isn't really as sharp as I'd like it to be. But I could live with that if I get rid of that blue hue, which I think I may. I may see if I can mess with it now. So that's cool. So let's look at this thing in action. All right, now I know it's really dark, so I'm gonna hit the power button on this thing. Should already be set to the correct RGB. And this thing is so interesting because when you power it on, I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds like an actual like computer turning on. I think there's probably a fan in there, and that's what I'm hearing. But it's a weird thing to hear from like a CRT, like a fan kicking in. I think that might be what it is. It's kind of interesting. So I'm gonna power on the computer now, and we'll see. There we go. That's the BIOS. There we go. So I don't know if you can notice it on this camera. It doesn't look too bad, but there is sort of a bluish hue over everything. Again, I think I can maybe fix that in the contrast or in the menu settings, but it is annoying. Now this doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't look great either. It's not super sharp. So, you know, a little bit. It's not really perfectly straight. It's okay, but you got to realize this is like the lowest resolution that I can set on this. Let's look at it. Sorry about. I really apologize for the shaky camera work, but this is a more impromptu video than I usually do. These CRT videos lately. So let's go take a look at our settings. Okay. So we're true 32-bit color, but we're 640 by 480 resolution. And I mean, this is usable. It's doable. But even now at this low resolution, it's still, it's kind of blurry. I mean, not horrible, but it's a little bit blurry, and everything kind of feels really washed out. Again, I'm hoping this could be fixed in settings, but this thing's pretty damn old, so it just may be how it is, and I hope it's not a capacitor issue. But I'll show you. We'll raise it by 800 by 600, and it's unpleasant. So you can see it's pretty. I don't know if it comes across on the camera, but it's pretty blurry at this resolution, and also like everything is messed up. It's obviously not sizing correctly. So it's probably best just to keep lower resolution, even though apparently in the specs it's supposed to, I believe, be able to go up to 1024 by 768, which, oops, let's just see what happens. Nope, it won't even let me. It was like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. 1024 by 768, apply. Well, yeah, okay. Well, it seems to be doing that, but it's pretty much, it's a blurry mess. So, yeah. This would not be, I can't even read. I mean, obviously I know what these are, but you can't really read anything, and everything's really blurry, and it's not optimal. Now, again, tweaking with settings may or may not fix that, but at least it's displaying that resolution. So let's go back to the lowest and then run something. Okay, so here we are back at 640 by 480, and I don't really have any games on here right now. This is just kind of a testing computer, but we can run 3D Mark 2001. So again, this resolution, it's much kind of sharper. Of course, the corner here, it's a little bit blurrier, but at least it doesn't like kill and strain your eyes, and you can actually read everything. But again, it's not the greatest. Actually going into something doesn't look too bad. Kind of looks better than the desktop. And this is usable. It's completely usable, but it's not like, oh my god, that's sharp, that's beautiful, it's blowing me away. It's not doing that. It's just like, wow, that's a really big CRT computer monitor, and it's kind of blurry and kind of washed out. But I mean, in its prime, I'm sure this thing looked a lot better. This set could definitely use some servicing, but here it actually looks good. Again, the focus. But I'm thinking maybe in a game where you've got action and things moving and going on, it's not going to look that bad, because this doesn't look bad. Even just, it's a low resolution, but it looks decent. Maybe I will put a game on here just to take a look. So I've installed XCOM Collector's Edition. We'll just see how an older DOSy game looks on it. There is a little bit of like flicker that goes on. It's never a good sign. Like, you can, like, the color or the brightness kind of, it'll be really quick. It will dim real quick, and then it will brighten up a little bit. Like back to, I think it just did it. It's really annoying. That's never a good sign. Although I don't know, it could be a capacitor. There's a number of things it could be, but that's never good. So let's just see how this looks. Again, I apologize for the bad camera work. Yeah, it's definitely off. Thing is, this doesn't look bad. This actually looks pretty decent. I mean, other than being shifted over to the left. There's no sound. I just don't have the sound hooked up. Although I believe there are speakers in this thing for sure, but I just don't have it hooked up. This thing might make a decent, like, low resolution, gigantic computer monitor, but I feel like there's better options available for that. Doesn't look terrible for low resolution stuff at all, really. So, let's take a look at the Dreamcast. Alright, so here I have it hooked up. I have the Dreamcast hooked up. I have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in there. And I said we were going to look at composite, but I don't really see the point. I just hooked it up via S-Video. But it should be a little more obvious, like the blue hue overall, and a little bit washed out colors that I'm getting with this monitor. So I'm just going to power it up here, and like I said, we're running through S-Video. Here comes the Dreamcast, and you can tell right away, well, I don't know if you can through this camera, but it's a little bit of a bluish hue. That should be just perfectly white. It should be bluer, unless my memory is screwed up. Now this looks fine here. Text, it doesn't look bad at all. Fairly sharp. I really wish the camera here could convey things better, but again, it doesn't look terrible. But again, the white, it's not white, and I decided to hook up the sound too. Because this thing does have sound. It's like, sometimes it looks pretty good, but it's not here. I'm sorry, I'm too close. So, I know it's not the best image. So, And sometimes it does look pretty good, but then you really start looking at it and it's like, I'm not super familiar with this game either, so maybe someone that's more familiar with it and the colors, how it's supposed to be, would probably know better. But to my eyes, there's definitely like a, an overall bluish hue, and colors just look a bit washed out. Now again, I'm hoping I can get a remote for this eventually and maybe fix some of these in a service menu, which would be nice. I'm just gonna go and just pick whoever. Whatever. Again, sorry, this is a super impromptu. I just picked this thing up today. I mean, he looks good. Greens look good. But like, super blurry text. You can't read these ones at all. I can make out Ruby Heart, but I have no idea what these say. Really blurry. Like I said, it just... I can't... sorry, focusing. I'm trying to... Spider-Man flip it all over the damn place. Like, he looks okay. But like I said, like, I think this is supposed to be green. Like, green, and it just looks, like, super washed out. Like I said, I don't think the camera really brings that across real well, but it definitely does not look right. But yeah, that's the Dreamcast on this thing. Maybe a lower resolution type system might actually look better. I wonder how... I actually haven't tried like 240p stuff on here. I think this is running in 480i, so maybe I'll try that. Alright, so I don't know if you could tell, but I've just quickly played with those pots in the back, the RGB pots, and yeah, that definitely turned down the blue intensity, so the whites actually look a lot whiter, and it doesn't have that blue intensity, so it actually looks a lot better. You might not be able to tell over the camera, but it does look a lot better. Now it's still pretty blurry in my opinion, and it's still doing that screen flickering a little bit, but it looks a lot better. I'm glad I discovered that. I'm glad I did this video, because see, I learned something there myself. So yeah, that's really nice that I was able to fix that. So cool. Alright, so here we have Super Mario World running again after a little bit of the fixes. Without the blue kind of intensity hue, and it does look a lot better color-wise. Unfortunately, it looks pretty bad over composite, in my opinion. It's just doesn't look so great over composite, and composite's not the best signal anyways, but I've seen monitors like PVMs handle it much better, where it looked a lot better. It's still kind of blurry, and if you focus on the image, you could still see it kind of dims and comes in every once in a while, but again, I'm not sure what the issue is with that. Maybe it's like a power converter or capacitors, but that can be fixed. It takes time and money in finding the right person, but at least this thing is fixable. Whether I will be the one to put the effort and time into it, I don't know. It is kind of cool to have, though. It's just big and so freaking heavy. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's just a look at this monitor, the NEC PG-2740. So I'm glad there's some information on this thing out there now. So again, thanks for watching my videos. I hope you learned something. I certainly did. Got more stuff coming as always. If you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe, and see you in the next video. Well, I decided to take a little bit of risk and try hooking it up like I thought it might be able to accept 15 kilohertz RGB, and it works. The image is a little bit squished and it's off center, but it looks nice. Not not Sony PVM nice, but it looks nice, and it's like night and day compared to what it looked like through composite. So yeah, this monitor certainly does accept 15 kilohertz RGB, which makes it pretty versatile. So you know, it does 15 kilohertz RGB for your old consoles, and it also does you know, VGA for computers. I'll show you real quick if you want to hook up an old console to it. I have a regular SNES hooked up here, and basically I have a high quality RGB SCART cable, and then that hooks up to this cable here that's like a SCART to BNC connector. You get these online. Make sure you get quality ones. This is nice and thick. And it just hooks up here. Here I have the RCA breakout for audio, but it's just like any other RGB on a PVM, red, green, blue. And then you hook the sync up to the H. It says H slash, what is that, CS, which I think is sync on composite maybe. So I don't know if this supports all the old retro consoles, because it might be pretty picky about that, but I hooked it up on the hunch and it works. Now I'm sure messing with some of those controls, maybe that's what would fix the centering issue and the squishiness a little bit. It's a little bit squished vertically, or that might be something I need that remote for, to get into like a menu or a service menu. But it looks good. It's not the best image I've ever seen, but it looks good. It does.